We're live with the magnificent Donna McCallum. Hello, my darling. Welcome.
Hello, Tam. It's so wonderful to be here. Yippee!
I'm so excited to chat to you about your business. Some of you may know Donna. She used to be known as the fairy godmother. If that sounds familiar, you can put two and two together. But two of the most significant things about Donna that I want to chat about today is that Donna is the longest standing original online business course creator as a South African in South Africa that I know of. Because you started your course-based business in 2009. Is that right,
That's right. My first online program I ran in February 2009. My first Growing Wings program. It was a 12-week program, and what had happened was the year before, I have an incredible spiritual mentor, but he's also a completely techie, hackerish kind of guy. He's like this combination of spiritual guru and hacker. And he said to me, you've got to be doing online programs. And there was this program that was selling at the time called Teaching Cells. And I had completely got into Ferris in 2008. I'd read the 4-hour work week, and I was like, that sounds amazing, only working 4 hours a week, even though I love my work and I was working a lot more, and I don't think I'll ever only work 4 hours a week. But I love the idea of automating, systematizing. And at the time I was running a business, I'd started in 2005, and I was doing traditional workshops, seminars, like people would have to come to the workshop. And I was traveling around South Africa and doing workshops in the Cape and in Joburg. I was living in Joburg at the time, and Durban. And I'd also done workshops in the UK and the US. No, in fact, I did my US workshops in 2009 because I sold into my second Growing Wings program while I was in the US.
Wow.
But I'd done in Germany and the UK. And Simon sat down with me in October of 2008, and he was like, you've got to go online. This is the future. You've got to go online. And another business mentor of mine had said to me, you've got to move away from the bums on seats business model. It's just not a great business model. Like, you have to be in a room. You have to get 30 people, 50 people, 100 people into the room, each paying 200 Rand. Oh my goodness, you've got to pay venue fees and all of this stuff. Travel. It's not a great model. You've got to change your business model. Because I was really grappling at the time with, like, how do I make this work?
Yes.
It wasn't a profitable business. It was a passion business. It was a love business. It was a purpose business. And what I'd started off teaching people, and why I was called the fairy godmother, was how to get clear on your dreams and goals and vision for your life, and then how to make it happen. What I was also realizing is that my shorter workshops were great, but students weren't able to consistently carry stuff through. Like, they would get inspired, they'd get excited, they'd go off into the world, but they needed more support. But how did I do that when they were all over?
Sure.
You know?
Wow.
And so for me, the online step was pretty easy to conceptualize in 2009 because I've always been marketing savvy and tech savvy, and the business that I'd run previously had been a marketing tech business. And I call myself, I was previously like a sin marketer. My big clients were tobacco, alcohol, and life insurance.
What?
Yeah. So I went from like marketing stuff that kills you and, then like get the life insurance. But at the time, what I had done in South Africa for the tobacco companies was I'd helped them transition from traditional marketing and advertising. And when they were banned from doing that, they had no idea what to do next.
Right.
And in 98 and 99, I'd been in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, with a startup there, and I'd seen what was happening in tech and marketing.
Gosh.
And so I came back to South Africa, and it was and the internet, and it was so behind. And I went to the tobacco companies and said, you're about to be banned from advertising on cinemas and radio and, sponsoring the Benson and Hedges night cricket. What are you doing about it? And they said, we don't know. And I was like, you've known about this for 5 years and you don't know?
Jeez.
And I said, here's some solutions. And it was all database marketing related, which in South Africa at the time was like completely like, what are you talking about?
A revolution, yeah, like a total revolution. Listen, I want to just pause on there, and I want to just emphasize how advanced and ahead of the curve that was. Because if I think about myself in 2008, 2009, and I consider myself savvy, and I've been in training, just like you. I used to run training workshops. It took me until 2015, 5 years later, to hear about Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week and start an online business. So I don't know what magic and sorcery and US influence you had, but I cannot believe you've started so early. That is amazing. And the perfect mix of marketing and tech, and then of course your calling to teach. Holy whack.
So it has been this incredible confluence of stuff together. And it's one of the reasons I was able to be early. And being a pioneer and being early is a complete amazingness and a curse, I've got to tell you. I so identify with those pioneers who went west in America, or anyone who's been an early person and has had to hack through the jungles, like with machetes to get through. Because, everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing you started in 2009. But the tech to support an online business, taking payments in South Africa, taking international payments from South Africa, running a course, emailing, databases, all of that was so rudimentary. It was like macheteing. I mean, we stick and bubble guns, like tech together to try and make it work. It was just like ridiculous. And the kind of prices that I paid for back-end website developments in the early days, like if I look at my back-end website developer, he was my highest payment guy.
Yes.
And because we had to build, like now people have got it so easy. You've got like your Kartras, your Kajabis, your Fundi tools that you use and recommend. Like I use Entreport, whatever you like, boom. Create it, do it. You can do it yourself. You can have a VA in the background doing it.
Yeah, it's literally never been easier. I mean, even so, when I started, Canva wasn't a thing. If you're watching and you don't know what Canva is this most amazing graphics tool that real graphic designers hate because it just lets anybody make something that looks fairly acceptable. I remember trying to make my first PDF download as a lead magnet in some expensive tool. It took me weeks and it was still shitty. Whereas now, like you said, you can make graphics, you've got these funnel builders like Kartra and Kajabi and Fundi and all of these others. You've got this whole industry of team people who work with you, who can do your writing and your graphics and your admin support. It's never been better. So let's fast forward to now then in your journey. Like, what has happened? I think I asked you just before we got on the call, how many students have you had? How many people do you have in your community? I know you do some serious life-changing work. Like, what's unfolded since then?
So what's unfolded since 2009 is that I was teaching manifesting, dreams, goals, vision in 2011. And so I launched my first online program, Growing Wings. It was a 12-week program to support people post my workshops. I then in 2011 realized that my students were having, and most of my students are conscious women who are really committed to living their best lives. And normally they're at some kind of pain point where like they've just got divorced or they want to leave corporate or they're empty nest syndrome or something's just happened that they're like, fuck it, I've got to change my life. This has got to be different. Yeah. And then one of the biggest sticking points that I found for most of my students was, and the biggest fear and the biggest stop around living their dreams was money. Like, it's all very good and well to think that I'm going to live my dreams, but what about the bills that I have to pay?
Yeah.
And so I then started teaching in the area of money. And that has been one of my just greatest joys, moving into empowering women around money. I had no idea how lacking it was until I started teaching in that area.
Yes.
And
So
fascinatingly, yeah.
no, go. I was going to say you've got this signature program called Money Magic, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That I highly recommend. And I've seen, like you say, so many people in there. I'm in your Money Magic program, and I've seen how people's lives, in terms of how to allocate your money, manage your money, build a healthy relationship with money, the people I've seen in your community, how their lives have changed is unbelievable.
Yeah.
From people like millions in debt to like multimillionaires.
Yeah, it's profound. It's just profound. And for me, like, the teaching about money was never the thing. The teaching was about, like, how to live your dreams and goals. And then I realized money was absolutely like a foundational problem there.
Yes. Yeah.
And fascinatingly, I had studied finance at university. I had been good with money. I'd had a good money foundation myself. I'd gone through money challenges in living my purpose and doing this business. I'd gone through money challenges, so I kind of got it. Anyway, so I was teaching about still manifesting dreams and goals and money. And then I created a whole lot of small programs. And because I've been doing it for so long, and also because I got caught up, Tam, in this complete, I call it shiny object syndrome.
Ah, yes.
In 2009, I started, there was very little. There was no webinar platform for me to use. I found one that Indians had created, and we created. I would say to students, we're going to do webinars, and they would say, what is a webinar? And I say, it's like a web seminar. It's like a seminar on the web. I mean, I was saying that to people until 2014. It's like a web seminar. My first free webinar that I ever ran, like a free one, like a masterclass, I ran in 2011. I had 110 people sign up and 105 people show up. It was free.
Wow.
Okay. So the show up rates originally, now if you know anything about this business now, you'd be lucky if you get 10 or 20% show up rates on a free webinar. Like, I had 5 people not show up for it. Like, that's how, like,
new, yes, and fresh, and
new,
like
different fresh people were like, oh my goodness, I've said yes to this thing, I've got to show up. Anyway, so I got shiny object syndrome problems because Facebook didn't have business pages. Then it suddenly had business pages. I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to have a business page. Then Twitter launched, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to be on Twitter. Then Pinterest. Then Google Circles. You may not have even heard of it, but Google Circles. Next thing I was circling, and next thing I was LinkedIning, and next thing. And so every time there was this next, you've got to be on this, and you've got to be, and if you want to build an audience, you've got to be on that. And there were very few like internet marketers at the time that were teaching people how to do kind of big courses, but there was a lot of hype around, you've got to be on this social media and get followers. There was also starting to come like, oh, the way to make this business work is to have memberships, or the way to make this business work is to have high ticket items, or the way to make this business work is to have. And so for me, I was just like, oh my goodness, what should I be doing? Should I be doing this? Should I be focusing on South African students? Should I be on international students? Facebook ads, how do I do that? And also, because it was so early, it was very hard to find people to work with who knew what they were talking about. Like, in 2012, I started doing my first Facebook ads, and I hired a number of different Facebook ad experts, and I knew more than them.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's still actually a problem, but not, I'm sure, nothing like in 2012. Like today, you can get a social media marketing agency who can maybe get, who knows how to, exactly, I'm trying to be very delicate here, who knows how to make a few Canva posts and schedule them. But if you're trying to sell an online course or a digital product or a membership, they still don't have the foggiest clue. I've got so many stories about that, but I can only begin to imagine. I think I ran my first ad ever on Facebook in 2011. I used to have a PR agency. I don't know if you even know that. I found out a few cool things about you on this call, like your sin marketing. And in 2011, I had a PR agency. I was head of the digital, and my business partner was head of traditional in Cape Town. And I was running ads for clients back then. And I learned already, like, this is not get in there, just do whatever you like stuff. This is serious, skilled stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you had that experience too.
Sure. In 2012, I decided Google Ads and AdWords were the way to go. And I found a so-called expert agency who, like, I really thought that they were. And at the time, I put a budget of 40,000 Rand in. It was huge for me. But
Oh,
like,
jeez.
this is the way to go.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I got zero results. And I remember crying and just thinking, like, what the hell? How the hell?
Yeah. That's serious, especially back then.
Yeah.
And then?
So the shiny object syndrome, I kind of got out of in 2018, 2019, when I was just like, no, I want to do what I'm good at. I want to do what I like. I want to use the platforms that I like. And very clearly, email has been the biggest driver of my business. And because I came out of a background where I was building databases for clients, I knew that email was going to be the biggest driver. And I'm so pleased that I knew that. And I would say to anyone, like, social media, great, but it doesn't matter how many freaking followers you have. You've got to have a database. You've got to have their email addresses, because that's what's going to drive your business. And certainly for me, that's what's going to business.
Well, everybody tells you that. And in fact, you're the third person I've spoken to in the last 48 hours. And you're the third person who said that. It's your email list. And that's the conventional wisdom. But if you're listening and you're only thinking about this industry, you're going to hear that, and you've got to believe that it's true. But as you know, I work one-on-one with people in a high-touch mentoring way, and it's a constant sickle to get people to build their email database. It's the kind of thing that compounds, and it takes time, right? So when you've got 200 people on your list, or 400 people on your list, or 500 people on this, you don't see the value, but then it turns into 1,000 and 5,000, and you could end up with 100,000 people on your list, like Warwick Kearns told me he has yesterday. And I was like, you see, it's true, it's genuine, it's actually true, but it's so hard to believe when you've got your auntie and your cousin responding to your emails only. So I'm so glad you shared that.
And yeah, the email list is huge. And there have been years in my business where I didn't build it properly, correctly, well enough. In the last three years, I've really honed it, and particularly because my base has grown more and more internationally, and I've been really focused on that. And that's the beauty of having an online business, is that you can really focus where you want to geographically in the world. And so it's really honed, and I can tell the difference in my business being honed more and more and more. But the big thing for me is, the thing I've done consistently is every week, without fail, since 2009, I've sent an email, basically. I mean, maybe there are like 4 or 5 weeks in those 14 years that I haven't. I send an email every week, and obviously during the times when I do invitations to my programs, I do more emailing, but I'm consistent. And what I see, some people have been on my database. The database system I use now, I've been using since the end of 2015, early 2016. I have maybe 5,000 people on my database now that were there longer than that.
Wow.
I have people joining my programs now, today, who say, geez, I've been following you for like over 10 years, and I've really wanted to do this program, and I'm doing it now. I have people, exactly.
It's incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have people who, now I've just done my 7 Levels of Abundance program. I'm running it now. I have 4 or 5 clients on there who I haven't seen in the last decade. They did programs with me before. They did workshops with me before. They're back, like 10 years later.
Wow.
And it's just like, for me, the beauty of my business is that I've just been there, I've just been consistent. My students know, and when they're ready to come back, they come back. Many of my students come back. 65% of my students come back for more courses with me, because one of the things that I have really focused on, and kind of even more than database building, what I've focused on, and probably to the detriment of database building, I focused on having my students participate through the whole program. Now, if you think that having an online program is a quick, easy, passive income, internet marketing, I'm going to have an online business and make tons of money, and so many people are going to buy my course, etc. No. There are loads of people selling that. It's the get rich quick, what stuff.
Yeah.
And what like really upsets me about people who are teaching marketing online programs is that they don't teach you how to create online programs that really create transformation for your students and get your students from A to Z. Because you know how many programs you've done, Tam, I've done, anyone's done, and now most people watching this have done an online program, and you start, and for the first 2 weeks you're engaged, and thereafter
you're gone.
And so for me, one of the hugest things that I've been building and build into is consistently getting my students to stay engaged, stay participative. Because if they go through the whole program and they do the exercises, they get the results.
Yeah.
And so I've just finished one of my Money Magic programs recently, and 75% of the people who started the program ended the program.
Those are great numbers. Yeah.
75% shop rate on my last webinar.
Yeah. I mean, you are raising such an important point, and if somebody's listening who's tapped into this industry, it's going to hit home. And if you don't know anything about this industry, this is going to be surprising for you. But there are a lot of people who sell programs and don't give a hootie toot toots if you even do them. And I think the industry standard is like less than 10% completion.
Yes, it is.
So as someone who's got their roots in training, so besides all the other fun businesses I've had over the years, like cafes and PR agencies and things, my most consistent route on schools is training. I'm a trainer. That's my heritage. I started teaching in 2002, and I've been a teacher in some way, shape or form to adults since then. So like 20 years worth of teaching. And my pivot from corporate training into the online space was as a trainer. I was like, should I train? I want to find out how to sell it. So I had to learn the marketing stuff. But I was already a trainer. And what I discovered in this online marketing space is that it's a bunch of marketers who don't have any skills how to train and facilitate, especially facilitate. And so that pissed me off for a long time, frankly, and it held me back from even getting in the space. But now I realize, well, how can I help people with that, right? It took a long time. You and I have known each other. Donna, you and I met in 2016, maybe 2017?
Yeah.
As industry colleagues. And it's taken me a long time to wrap my head around that I can actually help in this space, course creator space. So I hear you that if you are getting 70% show up rates on your program calls, you're the real deal. You are putting in the work.
The final program calls, not the beginning ones.
Not the first one.
Final one.
Yeah. That's serious. That's serious stuff.
Yeah,
and
because
what a privilege that your students have to be working with you.
Yeah, but it's also one of the reasons why students keep coming back.
Yeah.
I got results in Donna's program, and I'm wanting anyone who wants to get into this business and hear this to know this. You're not going to build a business from creating one course and selling it to people who then don't end up doing it. You're going to create a business, and then if you create other courses or masterminds or other things on top of it, people are going to say, oh my goodness, she transformed my life. She made a difference to my life. I will go and do it.
Yeah. You've got to actually care. You've got to care about the people. So that's an important thing about a course-based business, no matter what you're teaching, right? Whether you're teaching how to start an Airbnb or how to set up a funnel or crocheting. I was chatting with someone in my support ticket this morning for Fundy Tools about a crochet teaching business. I'm like, sure, you can teach anything, but obviously you've got to give a shit, to quote a lean girl yesterday. She's like, you've got to give a shit about your audience. I'm like, yes, you do. You've got to. So that's very important.
Yeah. And really, really, really care. Really.
And so now you've had thousands of students in your free and paid programs. And one of the points...
I think my database is about 25,000 at the moment, but I scrub it regularly. And so if I look, and this database system I've been using since early 2016, late 2015, and I can see the number that it gives. It gives a sequential number, and I'm on like 48,000. So I've had 48,000 people since 2015 go through, some have unsubscribed, some, etc. And I'm not sure how many between 2009 and 2015. It's amazing. It's amazing, from all over the world. Like, amazing.
That is incredible. And so something that's also important that you mentioned, so obviously you are South African. Yay, South Africa. And for a long time you were based in South Africa running your business, and you are currently based in Portugal teaching people all over the world as a South African.
Yes.
Whoop,
Yes.
Whoop, whoop.
So I was in South Africa, and I did have an international base, but it was small. It was maybe 10, 15, 20, maybe kind of maximum 20%. I had tried a number of times to really kind of grow that in different ways. I don't know whether it was a mindset thing, that when I was in South Africa, it was just more tricky. I don't know whether it was a Facebook ads thing, that I had to get my mind around paying a lot more for international clients. I'm not quite sure what it was, but coming and suddenly being based in Europe, I'm not sure if it was energetic, but it definitely shifted the way like my database is growing.
Wow.
I teach manifesting money and now magic subsequently, which is my more woo-woo, spiritual, body, mind, soul alignment stuff. And I think there was a significant shift in energy about being geographically now situated in Europe, kind of in the middle of the world. I think in South Africa, we tend to be very on the tip of the edge of the rest of the world, and it takes hours to fly anywhere. So my international base is growing beautifully. And I've always, since 2012, I think, charged my international students in dollars and my South African students in rands. And in 2012, it was 10 to 1. So I charged at a 10 to 1 rate. And then I've continued to charge at a 10 to 1 rate.
That's something very unique about you, and something that I really love about you. I show people that on your sales pages often if I'm teaching about this model, because it's very unique and really fair, and I really honor and respect that. Like a 20,000 Rand and a $2,000 today, $2,000 today is like 40 something Rand actually, but you keep it pegged at 10, and I think that is incredible and generous and amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I remember chatting to a mentor about it maybe 5 years ago, and they were like, "You're crazy. You should be charging these. Everyone's charging. South Africans are used to like in dollars, blah, blah, blah." But I just know as a South African, like, also if I wanted to do monthly payments for a course, not knowing how much the monthly payment is going to be, because the Rand is so volatile.
It's too stressful. No. And software. So after, I've taken your leadership on that. I charge my software in rands so that people can know, even though I'm paying in dollars, because, my model is I've licensed the software, and per user, I pay in dollars that software. And I'm literally taking the currency risk. I've got a tiny little margin for risk, and then I'm charging in rands. And if the dollars go to whatever the hell the dollars are doing, it doesn't affect the user on Fundi. And that's to help South Africans. Because if you subscribe to a $200 American software system, sometimes that's $4,500, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's $3,000. If you're just starting out, you can't take that.
My software costs have gone up by 20,000 Rand a month. In the last, since the Rand depreciation now.
Yeah, I mean, that is
20,000 rand.
it's hideous and that's ridiculous. And the same, and I'm also charging in rands now for my high ticket programs, which is also from taking a leaf out of your book and charging half what the international market for South Africans. You know, my group coaching program is 20,000 rand as opposed to my mentor, who I learned from, who's also launching right now. His program for the same amount of time is 45,000 rand. Because South Africans deserve it. They deserve a chance. I mean, I've really got that. You can hear I'm getting all fired up. Like, I'm passionate about South Africans just not having to go through what I went through in 2015 and what you went through in 2009. Like, hacking this industry is actually quite tough if you can only buy in dollars, work with Americans, buy American systems, and like bubblegum and sticky tape, like you said.
Yeah. Can't do payment gateways. I mean, I still bubble gummed and sticky tape because my main database can't do a South African pay. I mean, it's just like,
Yes.
So,
Yes. So here you are now, and to kind of bring us to a close on your fantastic journey, is there anything that you would do differently? There's three things. What's been your favorite part, and what's been your I wish that didn't happen part as your three closing ideas?
So what I would do differently is I wouldn't have followed the shiny objects. I would have got really clear on what stuff I loved doing, and I would have just done more of that. I loved doing PR stuff, like traditional media stuff. And when all of the social media stuff came, I got distracted from my PR and wasn't on radio, television, all of that as much. And that really was a massive driver of my business in the beginning. So I would have done way more of like, I love to write. I like Facebook, I understand. I wouldn't have bothered with Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, like none of it. Instagram, even like, just do what you know and what you like and what you love. I would have also focused even more on database building and funnel building and lead generation around email addresses. My favorite part of this whole thing is the freedom and the kind of sense of complete creative autonomy that I have, freedom, ability to create my own life days. I mean, from 2011, I started living as a digital nomad, again, quite early as digital nomads go. So I was living in Joburg. I would spend winters away. I went to the Dominican Republic. I was there for 3 months. I learned how to surf. The next year I was in Europe. The next year, and people were like, how are you doing this? And I was like, I run an online business, like, of course. And so, the freedom I've been able to create through this, even being able to move to Portugal and not even have to think about my business as a consideration in that.
Yeah.
I also became a mom late in life, a couple of years ago, which is how one of the biggest things you and I have connected on. And I was 44 when I had Luke. And it was just very clear to me, I want to be a present mom.
Yeah.
And so suddenly my hours, I was working 8 hours a day, and now I work between 4 to 5 hours a day. That's it. Like afternoons I spend with my son, and I can do that. And it hasn't caused much of a blip in my business at all. In fact, my business this year is growing beautifully, regardless of that. So and creatively, I've been able to teach manifesting and then grow into money and then grow into magic and then create new courses as my own fascination, curiosity develops. I get to create more and take my students along on the journey with me, which is just a friend of mine. I had a lovely beach day with him. He was here in Portugal, and he's been through the whole version. We were housemates in 2009, so he was like really there when I was, crying my eyes up because the webinar tech wasn't working and all of these things. And he said to me, like, he's an entrepreneur and he's been through an iteration of like 3 different businesses, like since then. And he said to me, like, aren't you bored? Like, you've been doing this for so long. Aren't you bored with your business? And I just said, absolutely not. Like, I get to create and recreate it all the time. And when I
Yes.
do get bored with programs or feel like the energy's run out, I stop running them.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you just recently in the last year had the most magnificent rebrand. I mean, I remember looking at your website. Like, you can't. I also feel like that. You can't. How can you get bored of that? There's just so much to do. There's new things to make. There's new people to meet who come into your world. There's new students. There's a new time to be running the program with, like, the current zeitgeist. I'm just like,
New energy.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's for me, it's genuinely the best business model in the world. I often meet people and I can't understand why not everyone wants to try and create a business that has all that stuff you just described. It's so unbelievable. It almost feels unfair that it can happen, but we happen to pop out on the planet at a time when the tech exists, the ability exists to live your life that way. It's unbelievable, actually.
Yeah. For me, it's just so well timed because I am a freedom lover. I am a creative expression person. I am a pioneer. I am a teacher, like included in my journey, inspirer, visionary. So for me, it's just been like a no-brainer. Yeah, I mean, I can't understand why most people haven't done it sooner. And why most people who saw the potential, I mean, I've got a very dear friend of mine who was like in 2012 sat down with me and said, oh, you run an online business, tell me about it, and still hasn't got it up and running.
Yeah.
And I know that tech is a big stop.
Sure. It is.
I know getting your head around that is a big stop for people, but it's so much easier now, and you've just got to take the first steps. And I run the most tech basic business.
You do, yeah.
I really do.
You do, yeah.
I mean, I don't have a membership, hosting, learning management system platform. I don't. I email my students, they come onto a Facebook group, do webinars.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, no, I mean, I also talk about that when people start giving me a tech objection. Look, I like tech. I use a membership thing myself. You log in, it's fancy, blah blah. But it's not necessary. I tell people, Donna, who has a huge audience, a successful business, she supports her whole family. She lives in Portugal. She spends time with her son in the morning, and she will send you a link to a YouTube video for her program. So cut the crap. You can do it. Like, that's what's happening, right?
Yeah, no one's ever said to me, oh my gosh, your video's on YouTube.
It can be that simple. It can be that simple.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's so beautiful. It's been so wonderful to hear there's so many things that came out on this call that I didn't know about your journey, and I really want to thank you for sharing that. But I love how you just spoke at the end around what the business model means for you, because it's almost easy to take that for granted if you're in that space. Like, I don't think I've stopped and emphasized what I actually mean when I say the freedom to, yes, you have to work. There's work, obviously. You've got to email your list. You've got to build your programs. You've got to deliver on what you sell. But you can literally do it from anywhere. And if that's important to you, it's enough of a reason to consider, how can I build a community and what can I teach? I mean, I've got a studio because I like it, but it's at the beach in front of my favorite hotel in a beach town, and then I'm sometimes in the bush and then I'm at home, and I just set up 3 Airbnbs and didn't do anything with this business for 3 weeks because of that freedom and flexibility. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Next year I'll be in South Africa for 10 weeks. Why? Yeah. Because I can, and because I love it. And of course I'm going to be back in South Africa for summer and miss European winter. Of course, that's one of the things that I love doing.
Yes, and running your magnificent retreats, and because you can. So I really thank you for bringing that up, like the taken for granted reason why somebody would want to start. So as your last thing, what would you say to someone who's thinking about starting? Like, what's your closing tip?
My closing tip is just start. Just start. Yeah. And the place to start, this is how I started. I started doing an email newsletter. Mm-hmm. And I just started, and initially I sent it to friends and family. That was it. Friends and family got it. This is what it's about. This is who I am. And, you know, some of them unsubscribed. Oh, well. And some of them stayed on. And, you know, and I just kept saying, this is what I'm doing. 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 And just keep telling people what you're doing. That's the big thing. Just keep showing up and consistently every week or twice a week or every day. It doesn't matter. Whatever your consistency is, whatever your rhythm is, just keep telling people what you're doing and sharing value with them.
Amazing. Donna, I think you're magnificent. You're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story for everyone. You know, obviously when you're a teacher of a certain subject, it's not common to hear the behind the scenes of how the business came to be and the model and the mechanism and the lifestyle and all that wonderful stuff. So I'm really grateful. And I can't wait for people to be inspired by the magnificent journey you've been on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to share it. And really, if you're even thinking about it or inspired about it, just start. And you'll learn as you go. That's how it works. That's how business works. That's how any business works.
Yes.
You will learn as you go. And like necessity is the like beautiful like kick up the bum of learning. Like, oh my goodness, I've got a course. I need a webinar platform. Okay.
Let me figure it out.
Of course, I better sort it out.
Exactly. Thank you so much, darling. I hope you have a magnificent rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Go well. Bye.